Hi guys, my name is Emily. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my skin freaking out. This is what I get for being a responsible adult and putting sunscreen on my face. If you have any recommendations for sunscreen, especially if you have super sensitive skin and are prone to being allergic to everything under the sun, any sunscreen that you have that is great for your skin, let me know. I'm willing to try anything. The thing that I actually wanted to talk about today is Jennifer Niven's books. I read All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven last month and I sort of read it uncritically, just took it in. And there were a couple of things that I had questions about, a couple of things that I had a little bit of an issue with, but overall I loved the story. My initial reaction was I liked the idea of two people getting together and exploring their state, building a relationship around a school project, two people who wouldn't normally interact. I really liked that, and then I thought, oh, this will contain spoilers for both All the Bright Places and Holding Up the Universe. And then I felt that Finch's death by suicide was a realistic conclusion, that if you have a young person who has untreated mental health issues, who doesn't have a lot of support at home, who really doesn't have a lot of support in general with friends or family, that the realistic inevitability is not good. And I feel like a lot of the times YA books will slap a happy conclusion on things and you're like, but really though? Because if you read adult literature that deals with mental health, oftentimes characters do die by suicide at the end of their narrative, and nobody questions that because it's adult literature and it's art and it's critiquing mental health systems and the ways in which mental health systems often fail folks. So I'm thinking specifically of things like All My Puny Sorrows and Swing Low a Life by Miriam Toews. So both of these involve a character dying by suicide. Both of them involve looking at trauma and grief and I believe bipolar disorder in both of them actually, which is what is speculated for Finch. He is undiagnosed in his mental health. It's sort of speculated by a guidance counselor in here, I believe, that he might be bipolar. It is realistic that young people often aren't diagnosed appropriately if they are bipolar, because a lot of doctors are sort of quick to write off mental health issues as just teenage hormonalness. When I read All the Bright Places, I was called back to these, and I really enjoy explorations of grief and trauma and mental health and sort of thinking through the ways in which larger systems often fail folks with mental health issues. And I've sort of looked at that criticism out there from folks within that community, within the MAD community. Like, I didn't really think a lot about the characterization of Libby and Finch and the ways in which they are really only their mental illnesses personified. There's really nothing else about them. It wasn't until I read Holding Up the Universe, which has a very similar formula to All the Bright Places, that I started really becoming critical of All the Bright Places. Holding Up the Universe is about Libby and Jack. Jack and Libby are very much their, I don't know if they're illnesses as much as like differences personified. Libby is plus size. She was once morbidly obese to the point of being named America's fattest teen, and she had to be cut out of her house and hospitalized. Jack is face blind. There is a fancy name for it. I will put it on the screen, which essentially means that after he suffered a brain trauma, the part of his brain that registers faces and sort of stores them in memory as a person that he recognizes is broken. These characters really have nothing to them. At least Violet had a blog and was interested in writing, and Finch was a musician and an artist. There were other characteristics, not very many, but other characteristics to Violet and Finch. Libby and Jack have even less of that. So in reading the one, I became a lot more critical of the other. Okay, so while I think it's important to write about difference and to open up young readers to thinking differently and being empathetic, I don't super love this sort of illness or difference personified. I think some of the things that happen in both books are a little tropey, especially Holding Up the Universe. Holding Up the Universe is sort of a step down. Like, you know those 90s movies where you have the geek who gets the hot person at the end? We have that in Holding Up the Universe. Just so many things about Holding Up the Universe that I think we're a step down in quality. I did a little bit of research, which is normally not something that I do, but Jennifer Niven was a larger person as a young person, that she, very much like Libby, did experience the loss of her boyfriend, followed by the loss of her father, that resulted in her being really anxious and really nervous to leave the house, much like Libby. So like there are some parts to Libby that I think are grounded in Niven's own experiences and our own voice, which I think is why Libby feels like the more realistic of the two characters. Jack feels like Niven maybe read Oliver Sacks' The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat and was like, that's interesting. Sorry if things changed a little bit there. My memory card ended up filling up, so I had to delete some things. I guess the point of this video is to document the process of critical thinking, so I am planning on making a video about critical thinking within the education system. One of the key things with critical thinking is that you stop and you ask questions. So as you can see in my April wrap-up, my initial thoughts for All the Bright Places were that I really enjoyed it, that I really liked it. The surface level emotions the story gave me were enjoyable. But when I started reading other things, I started asking questions and becoming more critical of All the Bright Places. Actually, I was critical of both of them, but I ended up asking a lot more questions while reading this that I then started applying to All the Bright Places. Part of critical thinking and critical reading is asking these questions and always trying to learn more. Those are my thoughts at this time on All the Bright Places and Holding Up the Universe. I just thought I would update you on these things. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye!